Hi, and welcome to Meet the Creators series, episode 10, I believe it is. We're going to interview Doc Ray of Doc Ray Genetics today. And Doc has been a good friend of ours for a long time. I mean, as long as we've been in business. Jeff is here. Doc's a great breeder, has been in the game for a very long time. Really looking forward to having him on to tell his story. And hi, everybody. Just waiting for our guests to come up on stage here. Hi, Jeff.
Hey Doc.
Hi, Doc.
Hey guys. Hey Jeff. What's up, sis? I'm good. I'm good.
How's
I'm
it?
smoking weed. It's 4 o'clock in Humboldt. I'm smoking weed. So how's everybody doing today? So
Got some. I got my mug, some
Good.
swagged out, and I've got my agenda for our call on the side too, so that's good.
cool, cool. I'm kind of
You have your agenda
Oh
for the
yeah,
call on the mug?
Doc on the side of the Doc Ray Genetics mug has a little
Nice.
greatest hits menu.
that's my that's my little
What's that?
private reserve mug for people to be able to house my genetic lines on it so far to date. That's with the little limited edition one, and I like Hamilton, so he got one. Yeah. Oh,
Around.
my goodness.
So, Doc, why don't you give us the intro, the spiel about how you got
With me,
started with
with
the
me,
plant?
Kelsey, right? Okay.
Yeah.
It's like the 70s, Nam was in the middle of Nam. It's like the early 70s, and like everybody in where we were at, everybody smoked or dabbled in it, dabbled with the plant during the early 70s, 1970s, when I smoked my first joint, as a kid, as a teenager, young teenager. And it was just part of a way of life. I mean, as you're up here, it's like the triangle is part of a way of life. And then a lot of pockets it is that way. But when I was a kid, that was like everybody else was drinking, and drinking wasn't my thing. I didn't like getting sick. I didn't like having a headache, all that kind of stuff. And I kind of just went that direction, but that just happens to be 50 frickin' 3 years ago now, it's a young boy, and that's really all it really is time, so, but to go from when I started cultivating, me like summer of 72, I was a young man in high school, and a buddy of mine that I smoked cannabis with, his big brother had come back from Nam, and when his big brother come back, we lived on the lake, we fished every freaking day, but every morning his big brother would get out and go fishing, at sunrise, and what he was doing was going and checking on his patch, and a couple of months as the season progressed and got into the fall, when he needed help, as I realize now, after doing it for so long, I realized he's looking for a hand, and he didn't trust his little brother, is the truth of it. He trusted me more than his little brother at the time, so I became his hand, and that's how I kind of fell in love with it. Was then really the first time I walked into a gorilla grow patch back in the 70s, when it was really, really just illegal as all get out, man. They throw you in prison forever in a day, and it's like walking in that field and seeing all these beautiful, beautiful, what were sativa dominant genetics at the time, stuff that he had brought back from overseas, the ecuadorial stuff that was just gorgeous, gorgeous genetics, and watching that all happen. And then over the years, as I've moved forward, I've always been drawn to this. I've always been, and I've done every fucking drug known to mankind. I'm a product of born in the 50s, a product of the 60s, and served in the 60s and early 70s, in the military. It's like I've done every freaking known drug to mankind. I don't really drink a lot of alcohol. I don't smoke tobacco. I don't use psychotropics. I don't take synthetics. I use Mother Ganja now. As you guys know, this is my main form of medication, as well as recreationally as I use it, even though I consider all forms of use medicinal, whether you say you are or not. I believe like smoking a cigarette or drinking a glass of shot of whiskey or beer, that stress reduction thing, that portion of it. So, but anyway, that's just like over the years, it's just kind of moved forward, you know. And like after I got out of the military in the early 80s, I immediately went to prison. You know, I didn't know what post-traumatic stress was. I was married, got out of the military, got married, got divorced, went to prison all in a 5-year time period. Literally, you know, just like literally, that was what my life. And I go, wow, how the hell did I wind up here? Because of those series of events, you know, felony conviction, already proponent to being a little bit of an outlaw already, hard to fit into society. People didn't understand post-traumatic stress like they do now. I have a severe TBIs. I've been blown up twice, and I highly recommend don't get blown up in your fucking 20s, you know, but I've been blown up twice, and on top of a couple of other, you know, bad Harley wrecks and car wrecks and life in general, you know, just been rode hard and put up wet, as the joke is. You know, over the years, I've kind of refined my craft over the last 30 years of just focused, Kelsey, focused breeding, focusing on what I was doing. And it wasn't for other people, it was for my own well-being. You know, it's like this blue skunk, what I'm smoking here was for my own well-being 20 years ago. Before that time period, I kind of was dabbling in childhood epilepsy and the CBG and CBN genetics specifically, because I'm a big believer in that. And now, you know, people come up to me and we've heard of you working in this for 20 years. Yeah, I've worked in it for 20 years of childhood epilepsy. And then before that time was like with cancer patients specifically, my own mother included, was seeing the relief that just smoking a joint, much less eating an edible, as we know, consuming an edible, just smoking for getting rid of nausea from chemotherapy. It's a brutal procedure. You know, they're poisoning people to death, basically pushing them to the edge of death to kill what's in them. Cannabis is a lifeline for a lot of people that I've learned now over the last 35, 40 years of working with this and working pain control. And like what you guys know, you know, nobody knew who the fuck I was as an unknown variable until a couple of years ago. Why? Because I'm not about trophies and fucking awards and fanfare. I'm about medicine and results and helping people in pain and suffering and my own post-traumatic stress as I smoke for my own relief. And then now, as you guys know, with my blue skunk genetics specifically, where it's in the hands of tens of thousands of veterans in the state of California, and I'm talking to people on a national level and even international play, that is the focus of what I really am doing right now. Is, you know, I'm about the medicine to the people, plant to the people first. You know, cannabis is medicine. I didn't really have that voice like I have now. I'm thankful for being brought above board to where I'm at now, you know, where I actually have a microphone and you tell people what to do and tell them to fuck off when they're doing it wrong. I take that very seriously now. It's like, it's important to me to be, I can't call, I mean, I can, I'm a badass, you know, I'm a badass indoor cultivator. I'm a top 1%er. I got patented genetics, blah, 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 all that crap. But what I really wanted to do was just grow the plant. But over the last decade, I've been forced into this path as an advocate and a voice for Mother Ganja, and that's the role I've taken. Why? Because I can't really cultivate like I wanted to, but I still can be a voice for her. And as you guys know, I usually get my fucking way, so it's all good, you know, that end of it. So anyway.
So you talked about different cultivars and times in your life where you're focused on epilepsy and PTSD, these very focused effects that you were looking for. And can you talk a little bit about the different
Absolutely.
cultivars and
Maybe let's
when you
start with Blue
for?
Skunk, because that's the
Oh,
20-year
sure.
story. And when you first, how you first realized it was special, where the mom plant and the dad plant came from,
Got it.
and how it's changed over the 20 years that you've been growing it.
It is. It's a much more refined plant. At the first, you know, my F1 was just kind of a shot in the dark of. I've been working in childhood epilepsy for a long time at that point, for quite a while, and I'd really been working in pain control, specifically within the AIDS community and the cancer community. Okay, so those two things I already kind of had the double indica means whoop your ass, you're going to take a nap. Okay, so I'd already kind of had that one figured out. And then when the Santa Cruz Blue Dream came out, like 05, 06, when it spilled onto the market, one of the creators, she is a very dear friend of mine and about 10 years older than I am. So she's in her mid 70s now and doesn't do social media, but the Santa Cruz Blue Dream, which is what it's known for, is one of the most cerebral plants on the planet, you know. So as Sis Lynn did with me, is here's this plant for me, because I was at a crossroads with my life. I'd stepped away from the industry. I was leaving the industry and was running rogue as fuck all down in the high desert, doing outlaw big store outdoor stuff, down out where they're growing legally now. But when there was back in that time period, we were running warehouses and all kinds of shit like that. I was just really at a crossroads, and she gifted me a queen blue dream of hers that was, I loved the flower. I liked how it made me feel. It made me calm. It relaxed my mind. It took the stress off. So, that was the start of that. And what I basically did is I took my old Dave, which is, Humboldt skunk number one, the old Dave. And Dave Cooper has been dead for 14, 15 years now. He's been gone for a long time, and nobody ever will know who old Dave is. But those of us in the triangle here, old Dave was a mentor and a cornerstone teacher to a lot of us, as we've all realized. We didn't know each other because of the outlawness of it now, but as I've come above board, I've met several people that are in my realm here that Dave had a hand on them, pushing. The Santa Cruz Blue Dream is the original blue skunk. I thought about Blue Dave, but I didn't think anybody find the humor in that, so I went with Blue Skunk. And the truth of it is, it didn't have a name up until a few years ago. It was my flower, and anybody that's consumed it knows it's a pretty heady, frothy, as I say, it's a heavy brew. It's not for kids that's smoking Fruit Loops and shit like that. It's real flower medicine, so it got a kick to it. Most people that smoke it, that have any kind of meat, they go, whoa, because it really just rolls over your head to calm you down. And the refinement over the last 16 plus years has been through superior pheno selection. I mean, that's just me taking my 35, 40 years of breeding knowledge, and then what I was realizing was starting to be actual working for me formulation of selecting cultivars. Beans coming, brother. They come in on scale in a couple, maybe not this year, but a couple years. I'm working on it. It's real complicated. It's got a patent on it, and I got all kinds of people digging with it right now. But I'm trying, guys. I'm really trying to get a 3 million seed ramp up right now, so y'all know what's going on. I'm working with my nursery partners here, and we're actively talking about bringing it into full-scale seed production and to full-scale clone production to get it out on a large scale. So it is coming. But now, where we are now with it, what I had is I'd gotten down to 2 phenos. To answer your question, Kelsey, I'd gotten down to 2 phenos about, it's been a minute now. It's been a while. It's probably been not a decade, but probably 6 or 7 years that I've been running with this one specific cultivar that I have, right? So now I had the 2. Data was just starting to happen. I was going on gut feelings and a little bit of data that we were just beginning to start have coming out on any kind of research to have to it. And I picked what we call the Blue Skunk number 2 pheno. This is that plant. This number 2 pheno, the data completely lines up with, therapeutic relief for post-traumatic stress. As simple as that. Its number 1 effect is calming. Well, when you're having a stressful moment, what do you need? Something's going to calm you the fuck down. That's what this does. Followed by balancing. And these aren't me. These are the phytofax reports coming out through through this labs now. That's what their data is backing up everything that my peer review work for over a decade, about 12 years of peer review work within the veteran community of that particular genetics. That's where it is to right now. And literally January 1, just a couple of weeks ago, the launch to bring that into full scale seed production is actively happening with my nursery partners. We talked about it this week a couple of days ago. We're ramping up. 3 million seeds is complicated, and as you guys know, I've got some freaking powerhouses in the breeding industry. They're helping me navigate this thing. So we're ramping up a 3 million seed production run, as well as hundreds of thousands of clones. I have made some really good strategic partners over the winter and last year that are ready to help bring it out into a large scale footprint. What's up, Dan O'Brien? I see you sneaking in, old man. Hoorah, brother. This is really one of those, that guy right there is why I grow this fucking plant. That warrior, that combat veteran, that gave his life for it, is why I grow this fucking plant. And he's guys like him that come and meet me when I'm down there, that sit down with me and smoke. And then again, I love everybody, as you guys know, but I love my veteran community first and foremost, and that's why I grow this plant. And as Sergeant O'Brien will testify to, the skunk helps him too, just like, you guys, as you did, as you too, brother, you too. As you know, Jeff, when you sat down with Brady in Arizona when they were over there doing that meet and greet here a couple of months ago, or whenever the last time you guys all sat down, Brady's another one. He uses the plant for his daily well-being and his balance and keeping flipping going. And what, like Dan and Brady and I all share, is we're old crusty vets. We got anger issues. So we smoke this plant to keep us mellow. That's really the truth of it. So I thought it was just me. Now I know there's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of men and women that want to use this plant for their well-being. That's why I'm letting it out of my hands. Here's the truth, Kelsey. It's a high yellow blue sativa dominant flower that by today's market doesn't sell at all in the recreational market, that thinks purple, gassy, and frosty is a definer for weed. It's moronics at its best when it comes to that's the definer. What we need now is education, 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 and keep teaching out correct education and keep teaching out correct practices. And that's really the only way I see it, because what we have been doing and what I see now is we now have a consumer that's basing their judgment strictly on looks over effects. And that's just pure moronics in my book. So, and I see it every day. I have them pick inferior flower because it has a purple tint to it over a flower like this that is big and frosty and yellow blue and super, super chunky, and it's gorgeous by most people's standards. When they see it coming out of pros that grow it for me, and when I'm growing, they're like, holy shit, man, buds are as big as your fist, and I've got big ass hands, and that's like, this is the truth of that. So anyway, am I rambling?
What, like, if you were going to give advice to somebody who's maybe just gone after a strain that some bud tender recommended and they had a bad experience, maybe they have PTSD, what would you say to them about how to go find a strain that will work for curing their anxiety?
Okay, this comes to the miseducation part, because a lot of what I've seen and not all of them, there are a lot of great bud tenders out there that have a lot of ethics and practice the right thing and ask the right questions. There's a lot of them, but they're way outnumbered by those that are swayed by whatever's coming in the back door at the moment. So one more time, it goes back to education. If this is someone that I'm talking to, like with my plant specifically, there's a 90% probability that you're going to get the right kind of results from it. What I recommend to everybody is that there is a point in it where you have to literally go to dosing. Meter dosing is critical right now, of knowing what a dose is. So like, I would never hand anybody a great big king size like what I suck on for an hour. I'm working on 0.5 gram and 3/4 gram dosing intervals. The suggested dose is to take a puff or two, wait 20 minutes, take a puff or two, and ramp yourself slowly up till you find your comfort level. I smoked weed with a guy down there where you were the other day, Jeff, and a little bit of puffs, and he told me at 3 o'clock that afternoon. You weren't where we were. So I'm going to probably get cut off here in a minute because I don't do Instagram very much. So it's got a time on this thing that shuts it off. If it does, I'll click the clock over. I'll be right fripping back. Okay. But yeah, that's what the plant is right now, is getting it into people's hands and getting it into professionals that know how to grow it correctly under SOP with the correct guidelines, and my SOP, how they want to grow it my way. That's finally where I'm working on now, SOP and genetics. Finding cultivators that have skill to do it. It's complicated. There's a lot of people that claim to be able to do it. Not many of them are very good at it on any scale. Most of the craft men and women have been pushed out of the game. We're approaching it at a different angle right now, coming in and finding canopy operators that don't know what the fuck they're doing cultivating plants, and let us import our SOP into place, and in turn bring genetics into play. It's real complicated, but that's what it's turning into now, man.
Right. And working in manufacturing and for different brands, I know how often the information doesn't quite get to the consumer the way that it was intended by the breeder, because it has to go through those cultivators and things get changed along the way. And we're hoping, with Canopy Right,
I'm hoping. I see
when
what you're
you
going
have
for.
your
I really
title.
believe it. If you could track it all the way back, okay, like they say with the blue, and it's eventually coming there. I got to finish this deal, and once it opens up, I'm going to put it into you guys' system so we can run it. But right now, it's like I got to follow the course that I started with this. But I do see at a point where that's going to be an open source plant that people can come get a original DRG blue skunk #2 and know it's coming from me, and they want it for post traumatic stress. That's why I see this coming into huge, huge value now because we're putting an identifier on it that says basically this is what this is. That okay, Canopy Rights is saying yes, this is the DRG blue skunk or whatever it is. If whoever it is. If we're having the opportunity like Katie Jean's freaking pink boost, the goddess to have for THCV, I see a moment in time where that comes into play where these get out beyond scale where they're not so tightly controlled, where people have really, really good access to them. So I hope I answered that. I think. Okay.
Yeah, totally. Jeff, what else do we have on the mug? I want to hear more stories
I
about
mean,
the
It's
various
we can go through the
cultivars.
mug, but
Yeah.
I guess I'm more curious as to what you're going to be running this year.
the new stuff is really cool. There's the only one that's on there is that Malawi Gold Mango.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the mug there because I already knew she was a winner, and she's so. I may actually breed. I haven't done anything with her yet. I want to get her stabilized. I got one more flip. I'm in F3. I'm going to F4. I think that's going to be the one I could put guys with you guys and let you take her and see what she does with her. Put her in seeds and clone forms and let's see what happens with it because that has a huge, huge potential. It's super, super flavorful. It's cerebral as the day is long. So if you want something like racing mind soaring, I smoke a lot of flower, brothers and sisters, and the old man put it down after 2 puffs and went, "What is going on?" And went, "Whoa, man!" And grabbed the couch for a minute. And went, "Yeah, baby boy, she's sawing." But yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful flower, and again, one more time, it's a sativa for genetics, which is what my focus is, Kelsey. So to answer your question, I'm not really working in a lot of. I do have indica crosses or hybrids that I'm playing with, but I really focus on the other one. I'm going to let this thing kick me out. I'll come back in. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Audience, if you have questions for Doc, feel free to comment.
He's back.
So yeah, I'm playing with some new stuff right now. There's a lot of really cool. I got into the thing about 5 years ago. I wanted to do full, like more real, true one-to-ones, like 15 CB whatever with mid-range THCs. And I've been into that thread for about 4 or 5 years now. And I've got a couple that I really are loving. I've got a Suzy Q cross that's crossed with my AMC, which is my Hippie Trail 74 Hippie Trail genetics. And it's just such a beautiful, beautiful, uplifting smoke. It's a blue yellow flower again with hints of purple, but it's mostly what do you want? This is education. One more time, education that purple isn't a definer. Purple is actually anthocyanins reacting to the cold, ladies and gentlemen. That's the truth of it. That's a reaction of Mother Nature when the plant gets cold. Other than that, it's just a freaking color. It has no bearing on the plant whatsoever. But there's a whole generation of people that think purple is a definer on cannabis flower, or how rare the variety is, or how special it is, or how dank it is, or it's exotic, or whatever the hell the word is that they're using for the day. The truth of it is just so far removed from what really is the plants. and the whole value of the plant, the full spectrum, full effect, what craft breeders do, over commercial. It's what we do as craft breeders, which is what you guys support, and why I love what, you and Jeff are working on, and Lele and everybody, all the men and women that are collectively worked on this a couple of years together now, opening a path. What my path was expensive. I patented plants. I have two in that. Okay, I started four. I stopped one because it just isn't worth doing. It's too expensive. One of them got shifted to a plant patent only, and I'm doing two seed patents, full-on utility patents. This is one of them. I need a lot of seeds to submit that with. That's what I'm ramping it up for. And then my queen, my black apple kush, why? Because she's a trophy winner, and I know she's going to just take record after record after record over the years, and I want my 3 cents off every one of them. That's the real truth of it. I've worked on that plant for over 12 years now. It's my post-Harley wreck plant. The last time I tried to kill myself, I know I look real good. I'm covered because I'm cut all over my head up here. Got a big old scar on my face, broke my jaw, crushed myself, left myself for dead one more time. Woke up pissed. I'm still on this fucking rock. What am I doing here? It's this plant, sis. That's what it is. It's Mother Ganja. It's what I do, man. I grow her. I love her. She loves me. She keeps me grounded. She helps all my brothers and sisters that are pinging in and out of this room right now. It's part of why I do this thing still to this day. I had a buddy of mine, a military, very personally, had a military friend of mine take his life 2 days ago, and literally just, what the fuck, one more time. And I'm talking to my friends on the backside of everything. It's like, this is why I fight this thing. It's why I get up at this stage of my life, closer to 70 than 60. Why fucking get up? Why do it? Why I continue to do it is I just can't stand it anymore. It's like, if I help one person with this plant, helps one person, just take them off the edge, and they sit down and they're here for one more day, then it's worth it. And I've got too many military friends around the world that use this plant day in and day out for their well-being. It's the only reason why I do it now. So anyway, sorry to get melodramatic on
For
it.
being a boy.
Everybody, one more time, suicide, post-traumatic stress, strain of it all, the mental health issues that we have within our military community is completely ignored. I'm thankful to have this plant in a position where it is tracking in as it's looking now. What you said, what am I doing now? I'm working on the first cannabis therapy on a federal level, ma'am. That's what I'm working on with this genetic line. That's what I'm working on. I'm really working to get it into the correct positioning with the right people, with the right organizations to get it in for VA testing. And that's what.
Yeah. That's going to really, I think, help everybody see the importance, the difference that it makes for veterans.
It's everybody.
Doc, can you talk about just how you support veterans through DRG?
The Veterans Choice, the Veterans Choice Cannabis line, the VCC line that you can find in a variety of places right now. We'll be in all the Catalyst locations coming up in a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so. We're onboarding it into them. That started like this morning. It's like I'm working with Element 7 all in California. I'm working with the Pottery Pharmacy Group, which is at 13 locations in the middle of the state. So in California, it'll be pretty well represented. I'm talking to people in Arizona and Michigan right now. I'm onboarding genetics with them as well as the brand. So the Veterans Choice Cannabis line is my flower line specifically designed as a economy 2-pack pre-roll in a biodegradable plant-based tube, 2 joints in it, that is priced at about out the door at about $15 with all the taxes that are attached to it. And that's like 38% of it, that is taxes, okay? But that's what that is on a retail consumer, civilian consumer end of the deal. What it allows them to do is if a veteran walks in, and first, we're a real proud community. We don't want it for free, but sometimes $10 is $10 that the retailer has to give their bud tenders permission if they're in that situation that they can give that veteran, just hand it to them and wish them a good day. That's literally what it says in the paperwork. Okay. That's what they're all agreeing to. Now I'm in a position where I'm talking to some major national brands right now. They're jumping on board with this thing with me behind what's going on, all coming out in the next couple of 2 weeks. You want to see me? I'll be at the Super Bowl, man, at the Gridiron Greats golf tournament beforehand, playing golf with a bunch of pot smoking ex-frickin' athletes that use it for the same reason I use it for. You know, I'm one of the guys there, if not the brand that's there. I'm pretty sure that the guys that are hosting will tell you I'm the guy that's the weed there, but that's what I'm doing in the next 2 weeks. And in turn, tomorrow, if it goes correctly, and I'm assuming it will, I will be partnering in with that group of men and women on a national project that's going to be really cool as it unfolds. It's a really, really cool thing that's happening, and a veteran forward line being specifically created on a large scale to go out and helping me open more doors. And I got a pretty good reach now, but opening more doors to bring more data researchers in on this that are working in this thread of post-traumatic stress relief with cannabis therapy. And we get an overall over and over and over and over and over and over again, man. The blue works well for taking the edge off of it and bringing it down off the edge. I didn't really care about other people. I know what it did for me. I've got a lot of damage. I've been through a lot of shit. It's why I live by myself on the side of a mountain, as you know, sis. You live up here. I lived in the northern Mendocino for 22 years and didn't talk to fucking anybody. I don't like being around people. I like being around the people that I love, like you guys. And the little short guy next to me over here, I got a fondness for him. He entertains me. He brings me great entertainment value. So, I love the shit out of you, Jeff. It's like, but again, guys, y'all don't know really Jeff and mine's relationship. We're friends, we like to talk to each other. We hang out, we talk to each other. He's irritated that I was in Oakland the other day and didn't see him, and somebody else smoked with me and not him.
I'm not irritated, but I don't pass up the opportunity to smoke with you either.
Oh, I know, brother. I know. I'm kidding. And I'm on the road all the time now, too. So, anyway, sorry, Kelsey.
But someone in the chat said that you're doing God's work with the veterans program, and I just want to reiterate that it is. That's what it is. It's God's work.
That's the Veterans Choice Cannabis line is specifically that, and yes, they are, Dan. Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arizona, Michigan's coming online. I think Massachusetts is coming online real quick. I've got Oregon, Washington, Illinois, Missouri coming online. It's moving pretty fast. The guys that I'm talking to, if this comes to fruition, I'm not going to say if, when this comes to fruition tomorrow afternoon, are moving it into 32 states right off the bat. That's a quick little switch, and why it's complicated. I've got to find operators that can grow the plant to SOP, produce the flower quality, now pass the testing. What I'm hearing, all the train wreck on testing of all the stuff that's being grown that's failing because of their inferior growing practices and not understanding the plant like the craft community does, fail over and over and over again for pesticides and crap like that we never ever would use, and plant growth regulators and all other kinds of crap that don't know what we do and won't take the time to learn it, want to fast track 5 decades worth of hands-on experience. You can't fast track 5 decades worth of hands-on experience. So anyway, I know I got way off fucking point on that, whatever you asked me. So anyway.
No, well, I think you shouldn't. Sorry, Kelsey, you're going to ask a question.
Oh, I just was curious how Doc met you and found out about Canopy. Right?
I don't even remember.
Buddy, I think I'm one of the first guys you talked to, actually.
Yeah.
I think we were, maybe it's been 3 years or so. I think we're not quite exactly sure if somehow you popped up into my radar asking me about genetics and stuff, and I'm not really sure how that all came about. I know I've been talking to you about this thing for a minute, though. I know we've been talking for a while now on this project.
Yeah, and thanks again for giving us our first little shout out and high times.
That was, yeah. Oh, dude, of course, man. Got me in all kinds of trouble with people. It's like anyway, but yeah,
So, so what I want to ask about is because so the way that we envision Canopy Right is to allow any breeder to scale anywhere in the world. That's the really that's the big vision in all of this. Um, and what you were just saying about maintaining quality control when you've got your gear in 35 states, what's the how do you do it? What's the first thing that you look at? Do you inspect every plant? Are you going to just be on the road? Like how what's your vision for it?
I think quite honestly, every state is going to be different, and each canopy is going to be unique, and that's what I bring to the table. That where a lot of people drop the ball at is my Rolodex of cultivators is the top 1% on the fucking world. What's your Rolodex look like? I got the best of the best, man. And that's who my team is literally the best of the best cultivators on the planet. That's how we're coming out of this thing. I'm talking top 10 of the best on the freaking world, and honestly, it's a little embarrassing when I think of who the group is. But, for example, Spring Creek Farms, the J-Dom master of the planet, that's my boy, okay? Savage Farms, the man that invented light depth, that's my boy, okay? Oh, yeah, Sunbolt Grown, the queen of dry farming, that's my girl. You guys don't touch me, kids, and that's the truth of it, and that's what we're taking on an international scale. That's how I'm helping them reach their full potential and how they can capitalize on their knowledge and their IP, which is where we can't compete in flower, but where we beat all the big producers at, guys, is we kick their ass when it comes to our cost per pound of production. I'm smoking them, and these guys that I all mentioned make me look like a moron. Then that's the truth.
Uh,
It's crazy, Jeff. I'm literally at Glass House's boardroom talking to the president of Glass House one on one, and he's at 180 something dollars a pound production cost, and I'm 128. I'm kicking your ass, man. And then I look at Zelig, for example, Spring Creek, who's J Dom that uses, quite honestly, I don't understand it all. He doesn't understand me. I don't understand him, but he's using fermentations to do what he does. And he's literally 65 cents a pound for production.
and I mean anything from Spring Creek Farm is perfection. Just
He's
I
a
don't know.
master, Well, he is a man. When you were there, we were smoking the Emerald Cup. When that last time he and I were hanging out together, and we're talking. I talked to him this morning. We're getting ready to go to the Super Bowl together. I'm taking my outdoor guy that's going to make all you indoor guys cry. That's who I'm taking. And why? I got his outdoor flower, my genetics, grown by him. His methodology, by far the most inexpensive methodology on the planet, in a terpene throwdown with all indoor guys. And I'm talking, I won't name names because I don't want to embarrass anybody. Who is some serious motherfuckers sitting in our room, kids. And he just whooped that butt with outdoor bud.
I mean,
Uh,
it's I've never. I think the first time I experienced it, it was just like, oh, this is perfect. There's no flaws to this.
him, yeah. Oh, he's such a man, and he's
Yeah,
such a humble guy. He's such a humble guy, and he's such a master at his craft. And but I just need him to do, and what I'm talking to him about, Kelsey, is that there's a lot of large scale in what we're working in. There's a lot of large scale greenhouse living soil situations that are tailor made for what he does. They're not working indoors, which is what my forte is at. I'm a greenhouse guy, but I'm not a living soil guy like he is. And that's where he can shine. And all of a sudden, $300 a pound, he don't care anymore. Why? Because they gave him $7 million for his SOP to scale their thing up. That's the difference, and that's how we're changing our narrative for ourselves. We can't compete in the flower market anymore. We can, but the fight's ridiculous. Why, brothers and sisters? If you're a consumer, Wholesale flour for something back in the 2000s and even in the 1900s, God forbid, but in the 2000s, even early 2000s, sold north of $3,000 a pound wholesale, now sells for about 500 bucks. There's no money in it anymore. So when you're sitting doing wholesale, that game's over with. So the only other option is to put it in a jar or a bag. If you don't have retail space footprint, you can't get anywhere. That's what I've worked 2 years for, is to get retail footprint, be able to get doors open and move it forward. That's what I've been working really hard on as a brand and as genetics and SOP more than a cultivator, because the blessing of those assholes still in my canopy from me 2 years ago, honestly, Jeff. They got the $2.5 million in debt, and we get 600 bucks, and I ain't holding it anymore. And I was able to shift. That's how I found my silver lining in all this and moving it forward. So, what's up, Rev Reed? See you. I'm back, big boy. Ping me, okay? I'm back home for a couple of days. I'm leaving Sunday for the Super Bowl. You can come over and see me at the Super Bowl smoking weed with Jim McMahon if you want to.
We'll wait for him to respond in the chat.
He's going, you asshole. Yeah, I know. He's completely going, you asshole. No, it's funny though. Yes, ma'am.
So Doc, you probably have the most experience out of everyone we've talked to about how to create cultivar licensing contracts that work for you, and you're familiar with the canopy platform and ability to create terms to really dial in that contract. Is that something that's proprietary for you, or would you give some advice in terms of how you
Wow,
build a really strong?
that's a loaded question, Kelsey. Okay, that's what I've learned. What I've learned from in 4 years of navigating. It all depends on everyone is different. None of them are the same. Every contract is unique. Every negotiation is unique in this round. And what you have to do if you're going to be like where I'm at, if you're talking to somebody from my side of it, you have to switch your mindset. You're not one facet anymore. You have your SOP, which is your growing methodology. Then you have your genetic line, which is another methodology, another avenue, revenue avenue. The third one there's actually four that I'm looking at. The third one is this, the persona, right? That portion of it, which is a whole nother thing, because now they want your logo, your likeness, you to speak for them, all these things come into play. And then the fourth one that I'm going into now is teaching it out and teaching it on scale and under contract. That's the next avenue. So I think all of those come viable in this particular one. Specifically, if we're talking about genetics, though, seeds and or clone material, it's going to be really very specific to each individual contract, sis. I mean, that's the truth of it. Okay, you're the buyer. I'm going to come to you first. I'm going to, what do you want? What are you looking to accomplish? Okay, so I'm not going to stand arbitrarily by and go, all right, man, tell me what you want me to do. What do you want to do with my plant? Got to be proactive about it. Who's my buyer that I'm engaging, I'm going to do a little R&D on them, have my team research who the hell they are they reputable, all this kind of stuff. All those little components now come into stuff that I wasn't doing before. Like when I was over in Arizona talking to Mint's privately held. They're huge. They control Arizona. Everything the state runs through them, it's held by two men. That's how crazy it is. It's privately held by two guys, and it's hundreds of millions of dollars a year in business. They're not an openly traded company. You can't just arbitrarily go look them up like you can, like Glass House and Curaleaf and all these other big ones that are publicly traded, privately held companies are different animals. So when I'm talking to these guys about it, what are they looking for? They had my flower. I've seen their flower. I know where their SOP is failing at already. They're looking at me strictly on my knowledge and SOP. Do they want to talk genetics with me? Yes, they do. But first things first, they want that last 20 to 25% that they can't get in flower quality of what Spring Creek, Savage, Sunbolt, Huckleberry, freaking Ridgeline, I'm missing people, Soham Royal, what we all collectively do over and over and over again is we're able to get that last 15 to 25% of weight flavor, fullness. That's where our SOP comes in huge. Okay, so and don't undersell yourselves, kids. Please don't undersell yourselves. That's what I'm talking to like Spring Creek about right now. I didn't get it, Kelsey. I didn't get it at all, honestly. My lawyer, and I'm talking about my IP lawyer, Dale, he's the one that, yeah, big boy, you're a bad motherfucker, man. I need to talk to you. Got some pro athletes, sir, that are just gaga over that fucking thing I took, man. Literally couldn't breathe, man. We got to have a conversation, John, when you get a minute, man. You're going to laugh. So anyway, but yes, this is literally what I'm talking about. The SOP is so important over everything else. Yes, the genetics is critical. They can't do what we do collectively. And I consider this family, these men and women that are able to do the last bit of flour that makes us the top 1%. There's a huge, huge value there the craft community has over everybody else. Okay. Now, on the genetics end, I think with the right kind of partner on the fulfillment end of the deal, that it has a high probability of success because it's honorable. What we all know is we have to be playing with honorable people in this thing that are going to do what they say they're going to do. This is the part that kills me, and I've heard it over and over on my month on the road. I just came back from a 4-week road trip and drove through. If you had snow or rain in the western portion of the United States, ladies and gentlemen, there's a high probability this crazy old man drove through that shit. And pretty much some of these people in that room will testify. I drove through floods. I got caught in the Santa Barbara flood out, man. Literally my luggage on one side, me on the other of it for 3 flipping days. It was just insane. But what I realized over and over and over again is they literally, nobody's honoring contracts anymore. Nobody's honoring deals anymore. They're signing paperwork. This new, the Chad thing, I get it. They come in and sign a contract and then don't fulfill it, don't honor it, don't make payment on it, whatever the hell it is, over and over and over again. What I said to you, I'm selecting people that I believe are honorable on the cultivate that want it on that end of the deal. But I'm not stupid. I've got my lawyers involved in it. I'm going to have them read it, and I'm going to send it to him and go, buddy, will you read this thing for me? Make sure I'm not missing any frickin' thing. That's how serious it is now. That's the truth of it, Kelsey. I don't have any real. I think it's going to be a brutal for another year, maybe even 2. People are going to have to figure out how to rebrand themselves and shift away. If I'm talking to the craft community and this, we're talking this breeder community, how to make your IP, your intellectual property, more than just your flower, more than just seeds, more than just clones, more than just the flower. It's how you grow it. If you are a brand that you're out there fighting it right now, you know what I'm talking about. Your SOP, how you operate your farm, how you produce that badass fire that you have, that's what's happening right now. That's where the real money is. That's what I've sold of myself to the guys in Arizona, why I'm an indoor guy. They're indoor people. They want what I do. They can't touch me in my space. I can touch their pound per, they're high. I'm in there, California guy, man. We just roll at a different beat than the rest of the country is the truth of it. Also, Kelsey, the West Coast cultivators, our skill sets are way the hell up there on the food chain. That's the truth of it. I want everybody to understand that. They can get out and brand themselves correctly, do their licensing correctly on their licensing. Good Lord. You asked that question too. That's a whole nother can of worms. What are you willing to give up? Okay. This is to my cultivation community and the craft community. Brothers and sisters, it's either get paid or get out. And that's the truth of it now. So I'm fought too hard to not try and get mine. And the fact that they actually like the fact that I say fuck and smoke weed on camera, I'm okay with that. They're going to pay me for that. I can work with that. I'll help cut their production costs down on what they do. We have to find where our value is, and that's the truth of it. I believe it's flower sales within the craft community is going to be really hard. I saw it firsthand on my month on the road. I was in multiple dispensaries. It's mostly Mylar bags now, ladies and gentlemen. Customer don't see it anymore. The 3 jars of weed that I saw were offensive to me as a craft guy. They literally had stuff about as big around as your little fingertip, and that's what they had in jars for people to see. It's a joke. And then on top of it, we're not in there. Then throw it on top of that, then none of the people that I know we are even on any of that shelf space. That's what I've been fighting for. And I literally saw it when I went down. Thanks. And the true facts. It is the facts, man. I went into what, then they bought them all. They bought all the shelf space. That's what happened in the last 5 years. They bought all the shelf space. The big macro producers or MSOs, they bought a lot of the shelf space, mismanaged a lot of it. The ones that I'm talking to, I think, are the least most honorable ones in the bunch, even though they get a bad rap and everything. Oh my God, more than an acre, blah, blah, blah. There's people that we need this for a certain thing. Why? Because they want to try and get flour down to under $200 a pound. And I can't ask my top tier friends that grow, what we used to get $5 grand a pound for to grow it for $200. There has to be a differentiation in the market in there somewhere. That's why I see that coming into play. Okay. But on this, to scale it the way we're talking about right now, is like with what you're talking about with technology, to be able to use it correctly. If you can find an ethical person on the other side of it, look, we want to grow your gear. If someone came to me and wanted to grow, like, hey, we want to grow the blue skunk here, and we were doing it to you guys, they would be vetted through my team, that my lawyers would take a look at them all, make sure that, and I'm point blank, I'm going to want to see your books, man. I know what I'm worth. I want to make sure you say what you're worth. I want to see your books. Why? Because my freaking portfolio is worth a lot of fucking money. That's why. And I know that now. I didn't know that 6 years ago. Talking to people that do $1 million a year, kids, my portfolio is more than 400 million. Okay, that's the reality of it. Okay, that's the truth of it now. And I didn't understand that more than a man in the moon. But 6 years of taking it on, taking ass whipping in the recreational market. What you said, ma'am. I'm tough and I'm smart and I know how to understand it better than a lot of people do. That's why I do what I do. My family's been talking about. My brothers and sisters have been assaulted by this recreational market, completely just obliterated. We had a beautiful model of producing top tier flour, and instead of following us and going, look, we're not as good as you guys, but we're going to come in right under you, they've been selling flour for a couple $1,000s a pound instead of chasing it down to the bottom and trying to squeeze each other out. But they're not going to squeeze me out. Why? Because I'm $70 a pound cheaper than you are, jackasses. And that's what I said to them over the last year. And like I said, I talk to my friends like I'm talking, like Zelig, like my buddy, like I'm referring to. You talk about Spring Creek when he's growing hundreds of pounds for $20. It's not even the same animal. And me to Z, really, there's what I've been talking to Z all winter about. And I'm the last year into this year because I'm trying to figure out how to move him because I believe that he's totally marketable and bankable and can get the damn thing done. And he is the right kind of guy for it. Can he scale it to 1 million square feet? He says he's done it. We're doing the numbers right now. If he can do it, I can get him a canopy of 250,000 feet and cut him loose. If he can pull off what I think he can pull off, he's going to change the game on scale. And that's the crazy part about it. It's like, if we can, everybody with the people I'm talking about, some of these pros are really, man, they're fucking, yeah, man, they're bad motherfuckers at what they do. We all collectively are. I look at the group of us collectively, and it's literally, and I'm talking about a small group. I'm not talking about the small people, and I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, but I look at like what I consider the Humboldt Alchemy Group family, and the Redwood Roots family that kind of all merges together now, man. It's like, that's the best of the best of the best of the best. It just is the cream of the crop of people that grow cannabis in Humboldt County and against the world. There's a lot of bad people in Mendo too. They're great at what they do. Trinity County too, all in around the country, around the world. I see this helping a lot of people on scale. It's all going to be on who they work with. And I don't know how you set the vetting system up. I don't know how we vet who is the buyer or the receiver on the other end, Jeff. I don't know. That's one of the things that I think is why I got 5 freaking lawyers. We're talking to somebody that's him and his old lady, and they ain't got the Rolodex that I do. They're going to get crucified with somebody. That's all. That's what I know what the vetting process to, Kelsey. That's the only thing that makes me go, I'm not quite sure. How do we protect them? when there's a shark or a wolf in sheep's clothing on the other end outside of it, we're not aware of it. And all of a sudden, comes in and that happens. So my thoughts anyway. So.
I can speak to the legal work and the canopy right terms of use, but the one thing that we can't do is have our sellers look our buyers in the eyes and decide their creditworthiness. So that's sort of the downside of making sure that you do everything on the phone. But the advantage is that we're allowing you to enter into agreements, only takes a couple minutes.
Which I think if that's, again, and I'm going to go what I did with you. When if you came to me, I went immediately to Hunt and said, does his stuff beat our stuff? Literally what I said, buddy. If we go wind up in the court of law, does he beat me? That's where we got into discussion and how Hunt got into it and how we all got to where we are right now is literally that conversation. And the consensus is if your time dates before my patent is, you got me, big boy, but other way around, I got you. All right, I see how that works. Okay, so we at least understand where it is. That's part where I don't know if people quite understand when taking on a blockchain application versus going against a federal patent. I think it's a little more intimidating, maybe. They go, "Oh shit, man, federal patent, boy, I'm in trouble." You're muted.
Yeah,
Chris, you're muted.
Kelsey, you've been on mute too, so we haven't been able to hear you. Can you hear me?
Sorry, I was just wondering if you want versus canopy.
Well, I'll just, for the people on, we'll just talk about the difference between what we're doing in a patent, because I think that might be helpful for the audience. Patent is really about ownership, whereas what we're doing is about permission. So if you find somebody growing blue skunk and you have a patent for blue skunk, you can shut the farm down even if you have no other contractual relationship with that person. And so that's, you read about Monsanto and soybeans. Well, you have the Monsanto rights over blue skunk if you have a utility patent. Whereas what we're doing is just establishing a way to fight a Monsanto claim that you can't grow what's in your garden because you can prove that you had it first. But by virtue of you keeping a plant simple, that's really enough legal basis for you to enter into a licensing agreement and get paid. So that's really the primary difference between the canopy rights set of rights that you get and the Monsanto.
Which is what I'm gearing for. That's what I'm gearing for. But that's all, big guy. That's all. I see that coming. So
yeah,
anyway.
And we would never discourage anyone from getting a utility patent, especially somebody who's put 20 years of research and experimentation into their gear and really can show the therapeutic uses of it. Even if you don't have a FDA approved drug, you still have the same amount of work and the same amount of really capital and value in your work. So we would never discourage people from getting a patent if it makes sense for your business. We just want to come up with the free version.
Which is, again, why I got interested, because I knew how expensive this fucking stuff is. And if this is a way to help somebody secure what they're doing and get paid on it, I'm all for that. I'm the first to admit I don't understand all the ins and outs of this. It's like, that's not my role is. My role is to do what I do. I'm assuming you're doing yours correctly and we hang out, and that's how I look at a lot of this stuff. I've learned every bit of this thing about this conversation talking to you guys, so I know shit about blockchain. I really don't get it all now, but that's not really what I'm supposed to be doing here. I'm supposed to be breeding plants and being a grandpa and words of fucking wisdom and yeah. So that's what I do. Cool.
Yeah. So any final comments? We're at an hour. Don't want to take up too much more of your time.
Buddy, I'm just sitting here smoking this long stubby. Figured that when I got to the end of it, it'd be the end of this segment. So, and I was surprised it was an hour, Kelsey. You said 30 minutes. I'm sorry, ma'am. So.
All right, we'll let you go. Well, thank you so much for your interview, Doc. It was great talking to you. And
thank you.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Plan for all of us, for patients, for the world. The work that you do is appreciated.
Buddy, I get it. And folks, I was going to do this anyway, and I appreciate all the love and support, but I was going to do this anyway. And it's like when I came out of retirement, I wasn't real happy with what was being said, Kelsey. That's the truth of it. I was watching people saying really dumb things on social media about this plant that I knew just was not true, sis. And I see our community, we're so meek and mild mannered and stand back and, turn the other cheek, turn the other cheek. I've turned the other cheeks. I ain't got any more cheeks. This cheek, the two on the back end, they've been turned and kicked, the whole 9 yards. Now it's like protect the community, fight for the community, stand up for it, stand up for my family, fight for my family. That's why I'm doing it. And what you guys are doing, I think, is a great, honorable way to help that community. It's hard for them to defend themselves in what I consider to be a very treacherous and brutal industry right now. So anyway.
We look forward to talking to you
Yeah.
again. We
Much love,
appreciate you.
Doc.
Yeah, you two guys.